Well, we were this close to winning the Battle Royale for $30,000 yesterday on Underdog, but we're going to have to settle for 2 top 10 finishes. We'll recap those lineups today, as well as my DFS teams. It was a great day, thanks to CJ Stroud. It's the portfolio review. Let's do it.
I suffer from a debilitating condition known as atropic chalkitis.
Peter's one of the greatest depositors I've ever seen.
Trust the process. Let's go. Let's go.
I got auto matched with Levitan. This is bullshit.
If I just go the other way in that 66, I win all the money. All the money.
If I had 150 lineups, I'd win too.
Process over results.
Illuminati make a bitch go crazy. I don't know which one of these my baby. Bust out AP, coach 5 bullets in your head like KD. Bust it, bitch go bust it. And I had 10 pints with me in Russia.
Hey everyone.
GMs all around. Thank you, Tyler, driving back from Miami. A happy Houston ending. Yeah. Holy cow. CJ Stroud on fire yesterday. Steven Bink, the $4.20 max. Congratulations. Justin got washed. That's why we're here every Monday, win or lose, the highs and the lows. Although it did seem like the Deposit Kingdom had a pretty good week yesterday. We are going to recap a lot of that, including my guy, AshtonCoates, one of the hand builders and Opto Bros, was live to win the SPY, my life's mission, winning the SPY. And Ashton was there in striking distance. We'll check out his lineup. Brady over here tilting a Daniel Jones stack in the listener league. Yeah, that didn't end well. And now Daniel Jones, it looks like, out for the season. No fun there. GMs. Yes, Brandon hawking my sweatshirt. I did a full changeover of my closet last week. The tanks all went away. No more tank tops. And I just brought out all the sweatshirts. Ideally, I need like a shoulder season where maybe I just go to some like light long sleeve shirts, in between tank tops and sweaters, but there's no in between here. We just live on the extreme. So now we are wearing chunky sweaters. Thank you, Steven. Yeah, this was the thing. So for those of you guys who weren't maybe sweating along with me, I had 2 teams at the top of the Battle Royale yesterday, heading into, I think it was like the final 8 minutes of that game with the Eagles and the Cowboys. Basically, after AJ Brown scored, I had a first place team and a 4th place team. And I'll go ahead and get some stuff pulled up here. And I can explain how it ended up being a pretty agonizing sweat. I really don't want to complain. And it's one of the things I've been trying to wrestle with yesterday, where this game is so sick in the way the psychological traps work, where this was one of my best fantasy days. I've been really trying to put in time to get better at these Battle Royale drafts. You've been hearing me talk about it specifically on Off and On the Clock with the Badge Bros. I've been trying to up my game, and to see some results and to have 2 top 10 finishes, I should be doing cartwheels, but you feel absolutely sick to your stomach seeing yourself in first place, watching CeeDee Lamb get a catch, and then watching your 2 teams drop. And I still had multiple outs. I had an AJ Brown out and I had a DeAndre Swift out to get me back into first place. They went 3 and out on back-to-back drives. Then they had the infamous play where it was their last chance to get yards before the game was either going to be over if they got a first down. And that was when DeAndre Swift and AJ Brown run into each other on that horrible snap there at the end of the Eagles game. I'm like, that epitomizes this sweat. The 2 guys I need bumping into each other and ending the play. So I'm just getting that off my chest because I am really trying to have a healthy mindset about it. But it is really hard when you're in a contest that has 56,000 people in it. It is really, really hard, as we all know around here, to get lineups in the top 10, much less 2 of them, much less to be sitting in first place, only to watch CeeDee Lamb give you the blade. So I was working through some of that tilt yesterday. I've mostly shook it off. I'll pull up the couple of lineups here. There was some other close calls here as well, as people have pointed out to me on Twitter with this team. Let me look at this team that ended up finishing in 4th place. It ended up being 7 points out of first because CeeDee Lamb ended up having a couple catches. So it actually makes me tilt a little less. There was one moment after the AJ Brown TD where CeeDee Lamb had 1 catch, and then I was down by 0.02 points. And I was like, if this ends like this, that will be more tilting. But CeeDee Lamb ended up having a couple good catches. He was definitely the play there. But yeah, so this was the first team. CJ Stroud double stack to Tank Dell and Dalton Schultz, Josh Jacobs at running back, and then AJ Brown and Mike Evans at wide receiver. So obviously it's the Stroud double stack to Tank Dell and Dalton Schultz that was carrying the way here. Josh Jacobs doing his job. But as multiple people have pointed out, Mike Evans was very close to a touchdown. He basically rolled into the end zone. I thought they were going to call it a touchdown. They ended up saying he was down at the 1 yard line. So that 6 points there would have been pretty helpful as well. Although I think it would have put me just shy there, depending on how that was scored, maybe just 0.5 points shy on that. So this one was a bummer. And then I had a second lineup, which was the exact same lineup, but it was just a 1v1 of Mike Evans to DeAndre Swift. And I had talked about this kind of build on the off and on the clock, where I was doing lots of DeAndre Swift and AJ Brown combos. Ended up not hitting, obviously here, but again, the Stroud, Tank Dell, Dalton Schultz double stack enough to get me up here. And the reason that was the case is because Tank Dell and Dalton Schultz were getting drafted in less than 10%. Specifically Tank Dell. Dalton Schultz was sprinkling in a little bit more, but Tank Dell was not getting drafted in many of these Battle Royale contests. So getting a stack here that was low owned and then having that guy finish as the wide receiver 1 on the week in Tank Dell really made it a very tough combination to beat. It kind of was like the week that Deontay Foreman had 3 touchdowns as well, where it was like you had to have him because not only were they the most running back raw points on the slate, but they also were getting drafted in less than 5% of contests. So we'll keep talking about the strategy element on off and on the clock, but I do really think if you have one big takeaway from these lineups, it's what the Badge Bros have been saying all along. Scroll the F down, because the projection difference, and I used this exact example for the Texans pass catchers on 2 episodes ago, but it's been playing out every single week, where Nico Collins projects slightly better than Tank Dell, which makes sense. But it then means Nico Collins is drafted in 100% of Battle Royale contests, and Tank Dell is drafted in less than 5%, less than 10% of contests, just by the nature of the contest and only 36 players being drafted each week. So you've heard the mantra from the Badge Bros over and over, but that scroll the F down really is the skeleton key to building teams that have a chance to not have to compete with 100 of your best friends, thousands of your best friends when you are right there. Appreciate the congrats, guys. I know a lot of you were sweating it there. Yeah, CeeDee Lamb, man. And this is what's kind of crazy about having, I had some good takes from yesterday and I had some really bad takes, and some of the really bad takes are in these top lineups. I was very big on CJ Stroud double stacks, but my other big take was I didn't like the spot for the Cowboys on the road at Philadelphia. I was taking AJ Brown over CeeDee Lamb. I think the market was pretty much taking Brown over Lamb. I wasn't fading Lamb per se, but I was just so heavy on this spot for the Cowboys, or for the Eagles. And I was loading up on AJ Brown and DeAndre Swift. And then you see, how big that difference is in a contest like this when CeeDee Lamb scores 22.6 as your first round pick. And then my first round pick, AJ Brown, scores 16. That 6 points is the difference, because there's not going to be a lot of teams that have both of those guys on it unless you're getting a crazy GM. And so that 1v1, it was AJ Brown versus CeeDee Lamb for all the money yesterday, and CeeDee Lamb out alpha'd AJ Brown, which really pains me to say, because AJ Brown's the ultimate grown ass man. I've been known to call CeeDee Lamb a fake alpha at times. And man, did I eat my words yesterday, watching CeeDee Lamb continually get open on that Philadelphia secondary. It really felt like a death by 1,000 cuts there at the end of the game. But very fun to have a sweat, very fun to get 2 shots on goal. And I think the other thing for me, you see this lineup only having a direct 1-for-1 pivot off of the other. That was a thing John had even asked me about on off and on the clock, because John has made some really big stands in Battle Royale. I think he had plus 50% Kenneth Walker one week. I think he had a ton of Josh Jacobs, and we were having that conversation about really being hyper-focused on some specific plays. And obviously it can sink your week if what you're heavy on doesn't hit. But when you are right, you give yourself a chance at 2 scores here. So I felt good about that. And again, like I had some of my other biggest stands ended up not working out. I had a ton of DJ Moore in Battle Royale yesterday. You know, DJ Moore was fine, but it ended up being Cole Kmet, who was kind of the beneficiary of that spot. But DJ Moore was another guy like Tank Dell that wasn't getting drafted a ton, that I thought had slate breaking upside. And if it hits, then sub 5% of the field is going to have it. But again, shows like even the things I was piling in on, AJ Brown, DeAndre Swift, DJ Moore, that didn't hit, still just having a couple of my concentrated kind of, you know, core plays hit yesterday allowed me to bubble up a couple of rosters to the top. But yeah, you can see some of my other top entries here at 116. I was really all in on these Stroud doubles. The Stroud you see with Nico isn't getting there because Nico scored significantly less than Noah Brown and Dalton Schultz. But I was mixing and matching. Here was a Deshaun Watson one that actually had CeeDee Lamb, but I still tacked on Tank Dell as a last wide receiver there. Another CJ Stroud double or single stack to Dalton Schultz. So I was mixing and matching this CJ Stroud stuff in basically all of these top lineups, and just didn't get quite the right combination. Just needed CeeDee Lamb or needed Mike Evans to score a touchdown. Or if you really think about it, and we can look at the DraftKings Millymaker lineup in a second, it was fully onslaught that game because you could have exclusively played Texans and in Bucks and won this. You could have played CJ Stroud at quarterback. You could have played Rashaad White at running back. You could have played all 3 receivers on either of the Texans team, maybe one bring back there, and then either of Dalton Schultz or Cade Otton. So it's pretty insane that you could have won this contest with full-blown 6-player onslaughts from that team. And I wouldn't say that's a strategy we should look to replicate because so often we need to hit more of the perfect one-offs. But on low-scoring slates like last week, and we knew heading into the slate, you looked at the totals, you looked at all of the backup quarterbacks going, we knew that this might be a week where if there were one had-to-have-it game, you could pile on that game and enjoy the benefits if no other games really shot out. And that's exactly what happened. I guess other than kind of the Dallas guys, Dak, Jake Ferguson, and CeeDee Lamb, there weren't any other like super big stack hits. So it's an interesting wrinkle to that slate. I was primarily not doing bringbacks. This Mike Evans one, I think kind of came naturally. Here, Mike Evans, I think kind of slid. I got him at pick, or actually, no, I took him ahead and then I built it around. I think I said I wanted some Stroud with a bringback, but for the most part, I was just doing double stacks and not forcing anything with Tampa. In hindsight, it would have been nice to have some Rashaad White. I was too excited to talk about my lineups that I forgot to pour coffee and feed the ducks. That's my apologies, but it's not every day we get a winning thing here to celebrate. So forgive me for shirking my duties here. Let's feed the ducks. Ducks are being fed, and let's get a nice little coffee here. All right. Let me catch up on the chat here. I appreciate all of the congrats. Thank you, guys. I know John's still bringing up the Evans tackled at the 1. That was brutal. We should talk a little bit about Arthur Smith. I mean, he is on another level these days with just how insane. I assume you guys saw that sequence at the goal line. And another one of my stands, like I had taken a lot of Kyle Pitts in drafts, but of course, this is the sequence here. Field Yates outlines it. The Falcons just forced a fumble and returned it to the Vikings 1-yard line. The subsequent plays: 1st and goal, false start; 1st and goal, pass to Jonnu Smith; 2nd and goal, end around to Jonnu Smith; 3rd and goal, handoff to Tyler Algier. Just some like truly sick shit there from Arthur Smith. TM said, how were you able to learn that the Del Schultz combo had low owners? You don't have to do anything fancy. Go look, pull up the rankings on Underdog. I'll show you here what you can do. So Battle Royale, 36 players are drafted. And let's see, what do we have rankings up for? I guess it doesn't even matter. Oh, here's the rankings for week 10. So you can do that. 36 players will get drafted in every contest. So you can look at the first 6 quarterbacks, and what you're going to do is you're going to work under the assumption that most people are drafting off of ADP. So obviously this will change because this is really early in the week, but let's say Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Dak Prescott, Justin Herbert, CJ Stroud, and Geno Smith. Those guys will be drafted in the majority of contests. Because only 6 are drafted and because most people stick to ADP, that means Trevor Lawrence, Jared Goff, Sam Howell, Will Levis, Brock Purdy, Kyler Murray will be drafted in less than 100% of contests. You can do the same thing for tight ends. Yes, people can take 2 tight ends, but for the most part, people are taking 1 tight end. So Mark Andrews, Kittle, Hawkinson, Ingram, Laporta, Ferguson. Those will be the guys that are going in most contests. And then anything after that, the Falcons tight ends, McBride and Njoku, will be going in less than 100%. Then you can math it out, right? If you assume 12 onesies, that means that 24 running backs and wide receivers, then you can count down here, find the cutoff, and then anything after that, those guys are likely going to be undrafted. And if you're actually looking for the spreadsheet, Chad Maschke generally pulls it together in the Badge Bros channel. You guys need to be hopping in the Deposit Kingdom Discord in the Badge Bros channel. He actually compiles some manual entry of this where people submit draft boards, but the data is only as good as how many draft boards we get in there. So he has a spreadsheet that can actually show that as well. So there's lots of ways to check in on what we expect, but it's very simple. The top 36 players in ADP are generally going to be drafted in close to 100% of drafts. Yeah, we'll pull up Yuda's lineup here in a second on DraftKings. Yuda, just absolutely insane. If you guys don't know who Youdacao is, we had him on Lulz a couple weeks ago. He had the ultimate Chad quote that knowing ball is the projection and that the Sims are in his head. And boy, were the Sims in his head with a CJ Stroud triple stack. Where's the Deposit Kingdom Discord info? So the link to the Discord is down below. We have a ton of different channels in there. The Badge Bros are the main hub for Underdog drafting. There are channels for all the different sports. The main channel, Badge Bros, is just for NFL. But then there's sub channels for hoops, for golf, for MLB, for puck, for all of that. And then if you guys want to become YouTube members, the Hand Builder and Opto Bros, you see it over here on the side banner, that will unlock a channel in the Discord where we talk DFS plays. And we'll also give you access to the 2 premium shows I do each week, the Showdown Cram on Sunday morning and the DFS After Dark show on Saturday nights. Had a fun interview with Joe Holka on Saturday night. Let me just look at a couple other things with the Battle Royale stuff, and then we can move on. I was also hunting some Battle Royale, some Dawg Bowl tickets. That was actually my bigger volume, got 28 entries over there, ended up having 50 Battle Royale entries. So if you would have had 50 entries, you could have won 2, as they like to say. Was just trying to get to that 50 mark because that unlocks another rake back tier thanks to the Gladiator program. If you guys aren't familiar, if you do 25 Battle Royales, you get a percentage rake back. If you do 50, you get a higher percentage. And then if you get up to 75 Battle Royales, you unlock the top rake back there. The Dawg Bowl, I was very heavy on the CJ Stroud double stacks over here. I had a team that I thought had a chance to win here. We had a CJ Stroud double stack to Noah Brown in Dalton Schultz. Because I was so in on the CJ Stroud doubles, even when I got shut out of Nico and Tank, I was okay tacking on Noah Brown. I had kind of opened my third eye to that play after JM had talked about it on Friday's Block Party show. And then I pulled up the utilization on the Fantasy Life utilization report, Noah Brown's usage was like not that far off from Tank Dell. So that ended up being like a nice pivot in this contest where these are 12-person drafts, the Dawg Bowl qualifiers, which means both Nico and Tank Dell are getting drafted in every contest, but then Noah Brown isn't getting drafted in every contest. So this team had CJ Stroud to Noah Brown and Dalton Schultz. And then I had just some one-offs here, Josh Jacobs, Tony Pollard, Demario Douglas. What was so sick about this Tony Pollard pick is I had not been drafting Tony Pollard. He was not a target. I had basically been full fading him, but on this team, he slid from his, I took him. Did I take him ahead? Geez, I keep trying to think that I only took this guy because he was an ADP value, but I took him ahead of ADP here. This honestly might have been one of them where I timed out. On Sunday morning, I was trying to get in a couple of these. I knew I wanted the CJ Stroud doubles. This Tony Pollard might have been an auto timeout, if I recall correctly. But I basically just needed, one of Pollard or Demario Douglas to really pop off. I finished with 125.7 points, and then I needed 136.5 there to eclipse Crutches. Shout out to Crutches, by the way. I was enjoying his tilt on Sunday. He had the CJ Stroud to Nico and Tank with the K-Dot and bring back Amari and Barkley. Barkley does just enough to hold off Wu-Tang Killer Bees, another great underdog player who's so close. And I feel for both Wu-Tang and Johnny. I see Johnny here just became a YouTube member. Nothing stings quite more than being this close. I mean, for it to be this top heavy, to have the cliff from 3 to 4 be this ginormous is really brutal. So keep getting those shots on goal. Wu-Tang, who had the CJ Stroud skinny to Tank Dell, and Johnny, who had the CJ Stroud skinny to Tank Dell. And you guys both had some nice tight end scores there from Jake Ferguson and Jonnu Smith. But shout out to Beretta James, CRB Lake 2, and Crutches for punching your tickets to Miami. I thought I was going to maybe have a couple that could bubble up here. I had an 80th place team, CJ Stroud, Tank Dell, Dalton Schultz, but then you see my DeAndre Swift and AJ Brown combo there sinking me. Another one here that was CJ Stroud single to just Noah Brown. Had a little New England mini here, Ramondre DeMario. DeAndre Swift ended up being kind of my downfall just because I was clicking him so much in the second round. Had another team here. Jerome Ford was my flag plant, Gold Star lock of the week yesterday. He didn't get there. So even a Stroud, Nico, Noah Brown, and then another little mini here, Jerome Ford, Cleveland. So I was honing in on a ticket there, but just couldn't quite get the pieces to fit. And then DeAndre Swift really struggling there, but had a pretty good showing overall as far as how many of these teams finished in the top 2,000. Hopefully Underdog runs that promo again. All right, let's see here. The funny thing is I messaged producer Nick was in a Dawg Bowl draft with me because we were doing the Sunday cram, and then I think Copper actually came in and was like, we're going to see some overlay right now in the Dawg Bowl. And I was fully prepared to go work on my DFS lineups, but I was like, all right, I'll go chase some more Dawg Bowl overlay. And so I fire up 2 Dawg Bowl drafts at the same time. And I'm normally not a multi-tabler. I don't mind doing 2 Battle Royale drafts at once. But the Dawg Bowl ones, of course, I'm fiddling with my DFS lineups and trying to draft 2 Dawg Bowl teams. And I took Tony Pollard because I was not targeting Tony Pollard. I think I had, that was my only share of him in the Dawg Bowl. So I am pretty sure it was a timeout, but it's my fault nonetheless. All right. I think that covers us there. I did have 6 entries in the goal line stand, had another CJ Stroud, Tank Nico team that took a 0 from Mike Gesicki. Jesus. But yeah, I think I'll try to have similar volume this week, maybe slightly more Dawg Bowls, probably try to get up to 75 Battle Royales, but definitely need to try to keep the good times rolling on Underdog. And yeah, we'll probably talk more Underdog stuff on the club tomorrow. We'll definitely talk about it on Off and On the Clock on Friday. So if you want more Underdog strategy, definitely check that out. And obviously check out our friends from the Badge Bros. Had a decent day on DraftKings as well, just because I was very in on the CJ Stroud stuff. Ended up finishing 127th in the big spy. I had a Stroud double stack with Nico and Schultz. So, you needed it to be Tank Dell and Schultz or Noah Brown and Schultz for the big scores. But overall, I felt good about this lineup. Let me try to blow it up on screen here a little bit, and we can talk some of these. Maybe going back up here is better. So the team was CJ Stroud to Schultz and Nico, and then CJ Stroud at 5.7%. Dalton Schultz at 4.1%, Nico at 17.4%. Then I got in the 3 running back plays I liked a lot. Josh Jacobs, 17.5%, Jerome Ford at 12%, DeAndre Swift at 6.9%. Nice. AJ Brown at 27.1%, Wan'Dale Robinson at 4.7%, and then Patriots D at 9.9%. So I felt really good about this lineup. Wan'Dale Robinson has a little mini correlation with Josh Jacobs, and then a pivot off of the Demario Douglas chalk. That ended up working out well because you saved 500 with Wan'Dale and he outscored Demario Douglas. And then because I still wanted to have kind of a Patriot in most of my lineups, and I didn't go with Ramondre in this one, I did play Patriots defense. Ultimately, the story of my day was Stroud doubles and Josh Jacobs carrying me, and my love for AJ Brown and DeAndre Swift bringing me down here. But I will take it 127th place out of 4,444 entries, 175.2 points there. But let's check out our guy Ashton, who had a legit sweat here for a while. He needed a little bit more Josh Jacobs, but Ashton here finishes in 10th place for $2,000 there. Also, of course, had a CJ Stroud double to Nico and Tank, but had that sweet Cade Otton bring back there his running backs, Kamara, Jerome Ford, and Josh Jacobs, and then also played a one-off Jahan Dotson, and then the Browns defense that ended up being a really nice play if you could get up to it at 4,200. I love that correlation of Jerome Ford with the Browns defense. Man, the Jerome Ford stuff was very tilting yesterday. For any of you guys who tailed me on my Gold Star lock, that was very frustrating because the touches were there. I think he had 24 touches in the game, or was it 29? It was an absurd amount of touches, but they were actually struggling to run on the Cardinals, which was weird just because they had the game script you wanted, everything lined up how you wanted, and he just could not capitalize. 5 receptions for 44 yards, but only, for 33 yards and only 44 rushing yards. So I apologize that Jerome Ford there at 12% couldn't take us to the promised land. That was very frustrating, but very nice lineup here from Ashton and the winning team here. Dak Prescott, back-to-back weeks of winning people tournaments. Pretty incredible that you were able to win a tournament yesterday without having CJ Stroud. I mean, Stroud scores 13 more points than Dak Prescott, but had the perfect lineup around it. Dak double stacked to CeeDee Lamb and Jake Ferguson, Taysom Hill at tight end, so the double tight end build, and then played Noah Brown as the one-off wide receiver with a mini with Rashaad White. That was pretty sick there. Let's see here. I want to look, I'll just quickly show my other lineup I rolled out. I obviously wish I would have stuck with my convictions on the CJ Stroud double stack and just run a couple different variations of that. But I was looking at the solver sims on Sunday morning after inactives, and the Brown stuff was just popping everywhere because Deshaun Watson, 6.8%, Amari Cooper, 13.2%, Elijah Moore, 2.6%. And it was kind of a way of leveraging my own take as well. I love Jerome Ford, but I wanted to say, hey, if Jerome Ford doesn't get there, maybe it's the passing game that gets all the damage. So I did roll out this Deshaun Watson double stack. I wanted to get a Patriot in all of my lineups, so I did Ramondre here. I also did not want to miss out on Jonathan Taylor week if it happened. Ever since JM said he was going to lock button Jonathan Taylor in his lineups, I decided I was going to come along for the ride. And boy, was he steamy, right? Because we pulled up the ownership projections during the Sunday AM cram. I think ETR and small field had it at 20. And I was like, this is going to be 30%. I was low on that. He ended up coming in at about 40% everywhere. I knew he was going to be popular, so I ended up correlating him with the Colts defense because I thought that would be a unique way to pair Jonathan Taylor, and that ended up working out really well. Colts defense at 2% scores 26 points for me. I did lock button Josh Jacobs in this lineup, and of course I had to be on my bullshit and get a Kyle Pitts share. So this final lineup, and AJ Brown. So this was a Deshaun Watson double stack, Jonathan Taylor, Ramondre Stevenson, Josh Jacobs at running back, AJ Brown, and Kyle Pitts filling it out with Colts defense. So this one finishes in 120th place out of 2,222 entries in the smaller medium spy with 50K to first. So just a little 2X here, but at least another shot on goal there. Felt good that my kind of 2 reads ended up working out. Amari was a monster yesterday, 6,100, goes for 27.9 points. I need some more coffee. Yeah, Lamar was tilting. Waylon Jennings says car doubles got you none of the money yesterday. Yeah, and I thought he was on his way to being one of the quarterbacks you needed after that touchdown to Olave. But man, Taysom Hill, we all tilt collectively Taysom Hill, but you love Taysom Hill when he's the one cratering the Alvin Kamara and Chris Olave and Derek Carr chalk there. So for one day, I was the world's biggest Taysom Hill fan there. He had a massive day. Let's check out the Deposit Kingdom weekly league. I finished in 18th place. I ran that same CJ Stroud double that I ran in the Big Spy. And in first place, we got docslippo here, runs a CJ Stroud to Nico Collins and Dalton Schultz with the Mike Evans bring back there. Actually, the double bring back with Rashaad White. So I absolutely love this. Not even just on a shorter slate where there's not as many teams and lower totals, but in a contest of this size, 400. How did we end up with 419 entries? I checked it twice at the last minute. Someone keeps auto enrolling or whatever at the last second. I will hunt you down and I will find you and I will make you pay for that. But regardless, I love the idea of going all in on a game in these smaller field contests, really limiting the number of things you have to get right. This is just a really fun correlated lineup. So you're all in on the Bucks Houston game, and then you do a mini correlation with Ramondre Stevenson and Jahan Dotson, and then you play CeeDee Lamb as kind of your one-off chalk pay up piece. And then it doesn't even matter that your Giants defense at 40%. Man, the Deposit Kingdom coming in at 40% on a defense. I thought I knew you guys better than that. Giants defense, 2,300. They were by far the best points per dollar play, but man, -1 here for them at 40% ownership, but does not matter when you hit the absolute nuts with Rashaad White, with Dalton Schultz, CeeDee Lamb, and CJ Stroud. So congratulations to docslippo here. Daniel Quinlan had a pretty similar lineup, actually. Stroud, Nico, Noah Brown. Ended up playing AJ Brown instead of CeeDee Lamb, but did have Rashaad White and Jonathan Taylor in here. Mark Andrews, he paid up for, got him at 6.2% and also had a nice defensive score here with the Colts defense. Did that Jonathan Taylor Colts correlation there for 199 points. So congratulations to all of our Deposit Kingdom entrants here. For those of you guys who aren't in this contest regularly, it's a rake-free contest that DraftKings spins up for us. $10 single entry. I'll always review, unless it's shit, the Achievers, in which case I will purposefully not review his lineup. But we generally review the lineups here on the portfolio review, and I post that exclusively in the Discord. I don't put that link anywhere else, not on Twitter, not on YouTube, nowhere else. You got to go in the Discord. It's in the announcement section. I normally post that in there on Tuesdays if you want to hop in and compete with the rest of the Deposit Kingdom here. All right, let's see. I did want to just check in on the Youdacao winning lineup before we do some best ball stuff, but just unreal stuff by Youdacao here. We always talk, what is like the popular thing you say with the Millymaker? It's like, you got to be perfect. You got to hit a 9-leg parlay. Well, Youdacao essentially got like two things right in this lineup because he absolutely onslaughted this game. A CJ Stroud triple stack with Tank Dell, Noah Brown, and Dalton Schultz. Fades Nico Collins, brings it back with Rashaad White. I mean, CJ Stroud, 6.9% in the Millie. Tank Dell, 6.8%. Noah Brown, 3.7%. Dalton Schultz, 5.7%. Rashaad White, the chalkiest piece of this game stack at 10.1%. He then jams in the two of the better one-off plays, CeeDee Lamb, Josh Jacobs, Browns defense. And guess what? This dude won $1 million with Bijan Robinson in his running back slot. 6.9 points. And this dude ships the Millie with a CJ Stroud triple stack in Bijan Robinson. He knows ball. Holy cow, this was a sick lineup. And when you really think about it, you know, I realize it is a triple stack, but when you think about the salary, you know, if you do like Noah Brown and Dalton Schultz as one guy, you know, that's 7,300, and knowing how low owned they were and that Nico is going to be the most popular of these, it's just like such a sick leverage play and as a way to say, if the Texans go off and Nico isn't there, well, then every other one of those pass catchers is the beneficiary. And because the opportunity cost at 3,100 to tack Noah Brown on is so minimal, you're able to get away with it. Just a brilliant lineup by Youdacao. You would look at a lineup like this and I would normally say like, oh, I would see, you know, my buddy Pat Crane, he likes to play the super small field tournaments, like the 400, 500 entries, and he'll run out lineups like this. That's a triple stack and a bring back. And I'm always like, that makes so much sense in those small field contests. I would have never, ever thought a lineup like that could actually ship the Millie where you have to be so perfect. But when your $3,100 guy at 3.7% goes off for 30 points, you win. But what's so interesting is normally on other weeks, I'm like, well, you need to get the one-off Noah Brown. But because he was part of the correlated block that popped off, it worked for him there. So just really impressive stuff by Youdacao, who continues to just scorch. And I do highly recommend go check out the Lulz interview with Yuda. He's a really fascinating individual. I'll make sure I link to that in the show notes if you guys want to check that out. But he talks a little bit about his process, and he claims and he says he's not a sim bro. He obviously has his own kind of sophisticated process, but a very, very sharp individual, and just wanted to check out his lineup there. And yes, Smiz was all over the leaderboard as well. Smiz got 8. He had a very similar lineup in that he had Bijan in there as well. He had the CJ Stroud double to Tank and Noah Brown with the Rashaad White bring back. And then his difference was just not having the Schultz there to access that other big 30-point game. And so the AJ Brown and David Njoku there keep him slightly below pace, but very nice lineups there. Yeah, I mean, if we all had 150 lineups, I would have rolled out a CJ Stroud triple stack too. I would have gotten so bored with my CJ Stroud double stacks. I'm like, yeah, let's just throw it in. I do feel the other thing that made the CJ Stroud stuff so good was the Devin Singletary chalk. You know, Devin Singletary was projecting for about 30% ownership. I don't know what he ended up clocking in at. I would probably have to scroll way down to find a Devin Singletary team. I don't know if I'd be able to find one here at the top. Maybe someone can tell me. But when you got a setup where it was like the Bucks are way more of a pass funnel, CJ Stroud isn't going to be super popular. Anything outside of Nico wasn't going to be popular. And Devin Singletary was mega chalk. It was just one of those like, you know, flashing red lights of holy cow, go with the CJ Stroud doubles, fade the Singletary chalk. When you think about the way you're leveraging the field there, I think that one just lined up on paper in such an obvious way. All right, here. Yeah, DFS daily newsletter, wanted to give them a shout out too. He's talking about Yuda. Might have cemented his status as the greatest of all time. He called it a college football style stack here. Wins by 12 plus points with over 177,000 entries, and scores 250 DK points on a lineup with a snowflake there. So yeah, I highly recommend subscribing to the daily newsletters. newsletter. You get it in your inbox every week. He kind of breaks down winning lineups there. All right, let's do, we got about 15 more minutes here before I have to head off to Sirius XM radio. So let's do a little roundup of Best Ball Mania. I also want to mention here, I did a post on my newsletter on Friday, and I did kind of a look at my portfolio through the halfway mark of the season, because we were right in the lead up to week 9, which puts us at exactly halfway until week 17. So I did a full recap and then was breaking down the teams that were advancing by stream type, because I thought that would be funny or fun to look at which kind of stream types were yielding a better advance rate. Obviously, there's going to be small sample size noise there and lots of variables, as Arthur Smith would say, but it was still a fun exercise. I'm going to drop this link down below. This is a free newsletter I do every Friday. Sometimes I write about football. Sometimes I write about working out. Sometimes I write about whatever is on my mind, but it's a free newsletter. I also recap and round up my week of shows and content. So if you're ever feeling like you missed something, this will recap it for you. So subscribe to the P.O. Box, free newsletter every Friday morning. But on Friday's edition, I had looked at these teams, and a couple interesting things did jump out to me. One was 3 teams from the marathon stream I did. So that was the final stream to close it out. I did my last 7 or 8 drafts. 3 of those teams are advancing, one with Maddock and Kitchen, one with Denny, and one with Lord Reeves. So I thought that was interesting that the 3 drafts back-to-back, 144, 145, and 146, were all advancing. I thought another interesting thing was most of the drafts I did on my channel. So it was either my channel, Ship Chasing, Splash Play, but I did 3 of my drafts on other channels. Fantasy Life, I did my 21st draft. The Establish the Run channel, I did my 38th. And on Liam's, I did my 135th. All 3 of those teams are advancing. And if there's a common theme there, it is those were some drafts where I wasn't tipping people off in the Discord, the Best Ball Value Hounds, when I was hopping in drafts. So my drafts were very much friend and family focused, but every once in a while I was able to draft in a quote regular or normie room, and it yielded pretty good results. Otherwise, this spread of teams advancing is about what you would expect. I had a lot more solo best ball streams, so 6 of those are advancing, 4 of them with Karain, 3 with Sean Siegel, 3 from the Swolecast, 2 from Splash Play. And those Splash Play rooms were always brutal, so it does not surprise me that that is one of my lowest advance rates by stream type. 2 Ship Chasing ones, both were with guests. The Rotopat team and the Chris Allen team are both advancing. 1 from the club, and then 1 on Best Ball After Dark with Gretch. We were both pretty loaded for that one too, which is impressive. But yeah, subscribe to the P.O. Box if you guys want to look at the rest of these things. And I also link to some of these tools that I use to review my lineups, like PD's, Patrick Donovan's BBM4 leaderboard. We got my charts from my guy Neil Farley, and we got a way to review teams here with the Fantasy Life Best Ball Hub as well. So check that out in the P.O. Box. I am pulling up the leaderboard here from Patrick Donovan. This is an awesome site where you can go and see your advance rate. You can go look at how many teams you have in the top 10 or top 1,000, and then you can also click them and look at them as well. My advance rate dropped even from when I wrote this post on Friday morning. I was advancing 28 out of 150. I am now currently at 22, although I am very heavy on Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, and Quentin Johnston, and Keenan Allen as well. So hopefully I will get back there tonight. A couple of my top teams are ones I've referenced with you guys on the show. I have that team I drafted on the club. I think it was number 6 really early on. That's a Tua and Dak team. And then the other one that I pulled up multiple times, that Justin Fields Tua team. This team still remains my favorite because it seems like whenever, guys are out like Devon Achane or Justin Fields, it's like other guys step up. So this team has Isaiah Pacheco, it has Jerome Ford, it has DJ Moore, Devontae Smith, George Pickens, has Mark Andrews and Cole Kmet. So this team still feels like my most balanced, juggernauty type team. Just definitely need the Bears and Justin Fields to come back and finish strong. But I do have a new team that's in the top 10,000, which is very funny to look at. It currently sits in third place for 6,848 points. And right here is incredible, because this was a Swolecast challenge team where my challenge was to draft 4 tight ends. And you can see here the 4 tight ends: Dalton Schultz, Taysom Hill, Trey McBride, and Cade Otton. All of those guys, other than Trey McBride having big week 9s, and then Trey McBride having that big week 8. And I also remember this team vividly because I took Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, and Cade Otton, and I was like, God damn it, do I have to take Baker Mayfield? I think I have to take Baker Mayfield, even though I already had Jalen Hurts and Tua. So this is just like a monstrosity of a team, a 3 quarterback build with Jalen and Tua, a 4 tight end build, but the running backs and wide receivers are pretty solid. JT, Brian Robinson, Eli Mitchell, Tank Bigsby sucks, but Raheem Mostert, and then my wide receivers, Tyreek Hill, DeAndre Hopkins, both of the Bucs wide receivers, Elijah Moore, and Zay Flowers. So that is pretty interesting there. I think that team could be some fun, having those 4 tight ends who, in a week like this, both, I assume I flexed both or 2 different tight end scores, because one of them, Cade Otton, Taysom Hill, Dalton Schultz, would have fit the tight end. I believe Dalton Schultz, and then Taysom Hill and Cade Otton, I'm pretty sure I would have flexed their scores. So pretty rare to use 3 tight end scores in Best Ball Mania, but I will take it here. Neil, who has put together some of these charts and graphs for me, says, I found it quite interesting that your second highest scoring team is in second place in that league. Yeah, that is interesting here. Yeah, second place. This was, I think this is the team Easy. I believe he was in first place, or he was trying to hunt me down in that league. Easy from the Deposit Kingdom. Let me go check there and see if that's the case. Yep, Easy's in first place on this one. Let me drop myself. Oops, where am I? Let me drop myself down here. Easy is currently in first place in this one with, he has the Stroud. He has the Stroud to Nico and Dalton Schultz. So that's why he surpassed me. Yeah, so he has a Joe Burrow, Stroud, Purdy team, Derrick Henry, James Cook, Kamara. Yeah, so that's a nice team. He has the Joe Burrow premium double. He has Jahan Dotson coming on, and then the Stroud stuff. So Easy taking down my best team right now, but hopefully I have enough cushion to make sure I get this team into the dance. Let's check out some of the stuff that Neil put together for me with his Best Ball Portfolio app. You can see my histogram of places again. You can, of course, see our vagina plots. One thing I was talking to Neil about that is cool to check out, and I was underutilizing this in previous weeks, is using the histogram of points scored, but to look by player advance rate. And one thing I was doing before the show that I thought was interesting was looking at some of my most drafted guys, and the guys that are killing you, and it makes sense intuitively, right? The earlier you drafted a player who's not performing, the lower your advance rates are going to be. So, when you complain about Kendre Miller is one of my highest owned guys, as is Jackson Smith and Jigba. If I look at my advance rate with Jackson Smith and Jigba, you can see here 10.67%. That's pretty bad, well below expectation. But then I go look at Kendre Miller, who's done nothing, who is one of my highest drafted players. And then I head back over here, and my advance rate with Kendre Miller is at 16%. So completely neutral there, which is just a nice way to illustrate how those late round picks don't sink you. It's those early round ones. So like a guy like Quentin Johnston, who I drafted a ton early, my advance rate with Quentin Johnston teams is going to be very bad. Yeah, 9.33%. Pretty bad there. And then you could look at the inverse, a guy like Rashaad Penny, which, by the way, Rashaad Penny getting a couple meaningful carries in that close game yesterday. Keep a candle on for Rashaad Penny. But if I go look at my advance rate with him, it jumps up to 14.67%. So I wonder, Neil, if you actually looked at that like on a bell curve, or how linear that would be based on underperforming players based on the round you took them in. I assume if you have a miss that you are 50% exposure on in the 18th round, that it would have a pretty negligible impact on your advance rate. That would just be my hunch. You can get more room by clicking on the 3 lines at the top to minimize the sidebar if you want. Oh, there we go. Thank you. I didn't know that about the hamburger menu. But then it makes my first place do something. It did something to that. Oh, that's after week 6. Gotcha. I wonder why it reverted back to week 6 there. But yeah, cool stuff there from Neil. Let me see here what's going on in the chat. Yeah, that's what we're here for. Everyone needs to pick me up. And you know what? No one should ever say that Neil isn't a man of the people here, because, you know, we initially pulled up his apps. The chat lost itself looking at these violin plots is the technical term. Neil thought the audience wasn't mature enough to handle it, which he's correct. And he removed it from a version. But then the following week, everyone revolted and said, give me my violin plots back. And because Neil is a man of the people, he ended up bringing the violin plots back. I still don't even know how I'm supposed to read this. Box plot and point of team score. Like, I guess I kind of understand what it is, Neil, but I think that you just secretly enjoy the visuals of the violin plot and that there isn't actually any use case to this. All right, here. Yeah, Easy is absolutely crushing. What's his username? It's Easy116. I should go look here in this leaderboard. Yeah, holy shit. 47 of 150 teams there. He has 4 teams in the top 550. That is absurd. This has to be one of the more dominant BBM4 regular season performances there. Easy, absolutely crushing it here. He has looks like he has a ton of Stroud. How much Stroud does Easy have? Yeah, that is a lot of Stroud there. You can see all 4 of these top teams here have CJ Stroud to Schultz and Nico, CJ Stroud to Nico here. And it is like, you see the way that single weeks still impact this top of the leaderboard, you know, like the top 1,000, you know, like my good teams have hung around within that same band of like 5,000 or whatever, but the like super high end stuff is really responsive to the previous week, and that there still is room for when a quarterback like CJ Stroud separates as much as he does and drops 40 some points, that you're going to bubble up a lot of teams there to the top. And it's impressive too. Like, all of these CJ Stroud teams are with Nico. I don't think I see a single Tank Dell team there. I certainly wish I had more Tank Dell. Yeah, look at that. No Tank Dell with the CJ Stroud there for Easy, but you're still getting a ton of Dalton Schultz teams there as well. Thank you, Joey. I appreciate that. Let's fucking go, Pete. Congratulations on the weekend smash. About to listen to the whole show, but wanted to message you quick. Yeah, I really appreciate all of the kind words. I don't really chime in during the sweat. I have a weird kind of like superstitious way that I sweat when I have something going on, or even on a regular slate. Like, I never look at my scores until about 3:30 p.m. So late into the 1 p.m. window. And that's only because I need to look at DraftKings to know if I need to swap. And then I had not even looked at the Battle Royale stuff. I was actually sweating the Dawg Bowl because I knew I had all these CJ Stroud doubles, and I'm like, I'm not going to look it up. I knew I had some Noah Brown, Dalton Schultz teams, and I was like, I got to be in striking distance for a Dawg Bowl ticket. So it was around 3:30 or 3:45. I finally pulled up to look at the Dawg Bowl, and then I was like, oh, holy cow, we got some teams in the mix here for Battle Royale. And then the other funny thing is I knew I had that one really good team in the Battle Royale, and I had refreshed it and noticed that the second team was in the top 10. I wasn't even aware of that team for about 45 minutes because I just I don't know. I do this weird thing where I look at the scores real quick, but I don't want to. I'm just like a watched pot doesn't boil kind of guy. So I'm very weird about not hawking scores in real time. I'm not the one looking at the app and watching the points refresh. I just wanted to get a frame of reference for the sweat and then dial in. And then, of course, though, I am human. By the fourth quarter of the Eagles game, I was looking at all of the teams in the top 10, looking who I had blocked, who I didn't have blocked. And then it dawned on me, CeeDee Lamb was the guy who was going to give me the blade, and God, did CeeDee Lamb give me the blade. Yeah, I'm ready to move on to week 10. Partly because I'm excited to try to run things back a bit, and also because I just don't want to think anymore about being this close to getting my horns on Underdog. Just one more big AJ Brown play, and we could have gone 1-2 in Battle Royale. Just one more big play from AJ Brown, and we go 1-2. But it was not meant to be. But you know what? I see Johnny Footballs in the chat and Copper Prices here. Two guys who have been on absolute heaters. This is how it works, right, guys? It's a heater. Does that mean that I'm legally entitled to having a couple more winning weeks on tap? I think that's how it works. So I'm going to try my best to do what the rest of the Badge Bros in the Deposit Kingdom do, which is stay winning once they're going. All right, guys, I have to head over to SiriusXM. Appreciate you guys hanging out. Appreciate all the kind words. Yesterday was very fun to have a real legitimate sweat. And yeah, excited to talk more Battle Royale strategy. All throughout the week, I'll end up talking about it. You know, Tuesday on the club, on Fantasy Life on Friday, I have my Hidden Gems piece with my favorite players to scroll down for in drafts. And then on Friday afternoon, off and on the clock, will kind of be our final updated thoughts on the slate. So if you're wanting to join me in going heavier on the Battle Royale drafts, definitely join me this week, and I will catch you guys around the Deposit Kingdom. For those of you who are YouTube members, I'll post some Showdown stuff later this afternoon for tonight's Showdown slate with the Chargers and Jets. So keep an eye out for that if you're a hand builder and Opto Bro. Otherwise, have a great rest of your